it going? I'm just coming off of 5 days with the trendy virus everyone's been so excited about. It's been a big time for me because the last time I had 5 days off work was in 2018. But yeah, I spent some time looking up at the ceiling. People are like, take it easy and come back when you're ready. And it's like, spot the person who doesn't have to make a living at this game, because there ain't no sick days. And I got 200 emails sitting there waiting for me. Right now I'm going to do some pickup swaps and electronics upgrades and stuff to a couple of guitars, so I can sit down every once in a while and stop the whirling. There's, no time-critical glue-ups in this using hide glue. I might, muff by trying to cough out a lung. I know it's annoying to some, but there are people who watch and are trying to get themselves prepared to do this as a business. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how the sausage is made. The thing I learned this week is that here in Canada, if you're a sole proprietor and make enough money to basically qualify as middle class, get into that middle tax bracket, which is every Gen X kid's aspiration, because we were all told that we would never manage to make it to the point where our parents were. I've earned as much this year as my father did in 1993, and I'm so proud. But anyway, if you manage to do that, the tax agency will decide to switch you from once a year payment after the assessment, like most wage earners do, to instead move you to quarterly remittance, where, as you go during the year that the income is being earned. So there's a year where you'll pay your lump sum tax like you've always done in the spring, and then you'll get a letter late in the summer telling you that you also now have to pay an identical amount for this year's tax, estimated, as well by November. While, of course, saving up for the first installment of next year's tax, which happens early in the year. So, in a 12-month period in which you earn, say, $60,000, the tax people expect you to hand back $35,000 of that, an effective tax rate in that interval of just about 60%, leaving you with an actual income for the year of about $25,000, which is less than minimum wage, while of course excluding you from the benefits and programs designed to help people who have to live on $25,000. So what could an individual do if they somehow didn't have that much cash on hand? They could pay really amazing interest and penalties to the government, or perhaps a generous financial institution might appear and say, well, I'll spot you some funds just to tide you over till next year. A very generous rate too, because, we're buds, aren't we? Oy. So if one is starting out from the point of being, working poor or lower income and doesn't want to be a criminal, that's a pretty big hurdle for them to jump. If you, want to leave that low-paying job with the tax, withheld from the paycheck every month and try and make it up into the middle-class bracket, the one that's been shrinking so much. We keep hearing from various podiums with concern. Why is it so? Why the gatekeeping? I'll leave it up to the gentle listener to work that out. Regardless, take your time and come back when you feel ready is not a thing when somebody's working 60 hours a week and earning minimum wage. And whether you believe it or not, there are a tremendous number of people who are in that position right now. And just so we're clear, I'm okay. Don't need anything. In fact, don't send me stuff, please. You're never going to see a viewer mail segment on this channel. I'm not going to do it. Decades of frugal living at the bottom of the ladder taught me how to take this kind of stuff in stride. But there are those who might benefit from hearing it. So, there you go. feverish life experience from your Uncle Ted, the cranky luthier who manages to live the dream. This is another nice National Res Electric. Worked on one of these probably 2 years ago, maybe. I remember I did a refret on it, switched to pickup, yeah, and flattened a fingerboard, removing the radius. So there's a video out there about that. This is a rather tight-fitting P90. Right, this is the one that has that really weird sort of cavity thing going on. Yeah, this is coming back to me. Can't remove the pick guard without taking off the neck. Some beautiful maple on the neck. This appears to have been made in 2014. It's got a system on here sort of like Fender's old tilting neck, but this one is accessed through the front of the fingerboard, a little Allen screw. It's a nice system. Yeah, there's very, very little extra lead in this. So I have a hot wire going to one of the selection lugs on the switch, the ground coming over to the common, and then it also grounds on the board here. So I'm going to find some stuff to protect the top of the guitar and get out the old soldering iron. Okay, I've got a very nice Seymour Duncan Firebird pickup to put in here instead. And this of course has the metal braided shielding on the wire here, vintage style. So I think I might want to put a piece of shrink tubing or something over that, just because this has got to bend around this rather small, cramped electronics cavity around the board here. Odds are this would short out against something. So yeah, let's put a piece of plastic on it. Another little piece of shrink tubing here on the grounding area, so I'm not going to run afoul of these screws on the side of the switch. This uses a stereo jack for the active preamp. I was going to switch it out for a pure tone, but there's some conflicts and some issues, so I didn't end up doing that yet. Instead, I'm going to put on some new locking tuners from Hipshot. This is a system they've developed that will cover up screw holes in 3-on-a-plate style tuners. There are two. This one actually happens to be bent right from the box. Got a bit of a zhuzh. That slide back and forth against each other with elongated holes so that they capture the tuner on the base and prevent it from spinning. So you don't actually have to use the screws included with the tuners. Just pressure from the ferrules will do enough. They're screw-in style ferrule. The tuner bodies can't rotate. Snug them up. Look pretty good, and prevent you from having to drill extra holes into a headstock that you might want to switch back to original at some point. Here we have a recent Gibson SG Special with the P90s. I think this is faded Pelham Blue would be the color. Gosh, that's nice. I like that. Going to upgrade the electronics in this, and we're going to put in an Emerson wiring package and a new bridge. And yeah, I'm excited to hear this one. I like these textured cover plates. They make a lot of sense to me. I feel like the sketchbook I carried everywhere with me when I was in high school. It's got the modern circuit board with quick connect stuff. Okay, fine. Safe and easy way to remove stubborn knobs if you don't want to invest in one of those bearing puller type devices, or use a teaspoon to dig into this nice fresh finish. I've seen that suggested honestly. This is something I've seen Eric Coleman do. He uses a special piece of braided string. This is a bit of rubberized wire from an old set of headphones. It's kind of flat in cross-section. Let's get that under there, wrap it up, and kind of hold your hand in case it goes flying. But yeah, clean, easy, doesn't mar the finish, and pretty cheap. Let's pull apart the plug and play. I mean, I don't mind this system. It actually kind of prevents people from like going too far wrong when they're doing their own at-home mods. I'll disconnect the grounding wire from the bridge there. I can remove the pickups. P90 screws, you got to be careful with those. In this case, they used rubber surgical tubing on the bridge and the old-fashioned conical springs for the neck. Not sure why they did both, but that's fine. I like the surgical tubing. It does, you know, after a while start to dry out, like in about 15 years or so. We'll get rid of the circuit board. Someone else can use that. I'm going to apply some shielding paint to the cavity. This is a high quality nickel shield. I'm using the water-based stuff now, as it's probably slightly less lethal. I tell you, the full solvent one, ooh, that one smelled more dangerous than anything I've ever been exposed to. This water-based stuff, you still probably shouldn't eat it if you're thinking of becoming pregnant, but it's marginally safer. Probably. On the back of the cover plate, it's just quicker and easier to use the copper foil. Get the stuff with conductive adhesive. I'm going to put in some Mojo Tone Quiet Coil P90s. This is a heck of a pickup. It's good stuff. Tell you, one nice thing about this quick connect hardware trend is that it's forced manufacturers to enlarge the wiring access holes between cavities to accommodate the size of those clips. In years past, they got pretty stingy with the holes, and doing a re-pickup like this could be kind of difficult. You know, especially if you had larger 4-wire going into what had previously been 2-wire cable. Gibson also uses those nicely tapped backing plates, which cut down on the inaccuracy of trying to get the P90 screws in the right spot. Emerson, beautiful set here. Look at that. Bumblebee caps. Everything's nice and put together. So I'm going to try and get the harness in position without losing any of the various washers. They do like to fall off at the last second. Yes, I have the pickup leads taped out of the way. This thing actually has a fair amount of buckle rash already. I just don't want to add any more scrapes, so that's why the tape. This body is routed to the thickest possible cross section for the pots. There isn't half a turn's worth of play to get those nuts started. And in fact, I went back and measured the thickness of the washers. The new ones turned out to be about 4,000th thicker. So I actually went back and put on the old ones because I needed it to get them started. Yeah. So I just have to connect the braided cable to the back of the volume pot to ground it and connect the hot leads while trying to keep things reasonably elegant. I'm again using slip-on shrink tube here to keep from inadvertently shorting out if the guitar is shaken in use or if someone wants to jump off the drum riser. You know, stuff that happens. Going to be swapping out the factory bridge with stepped intonation for this zigzag style, as this player doesn't use standard tuning very often, and it looks more traditional. Yeah, it's nickel rather than chrome, but what are you going to do? When stringing underhand through bridges like this, I like to put the red plastic on there to prevent pokety marks. Now using the tuner to set the string length. It's an average, of course. There are 2 little set screws on the back of the bridge. Obviously, you don't want to turn those while the strings are at tension. Alright gang, I think we're going to call that done for tonight. I'm going to leave the Res Electric for another day because there's something going on with the jack. It might need a new one, and it's not something I want to do at this very moment. So we'll just have a look at the Pelham Blue here. What a guitar. I really like this thing. Don't worry, everything's going to get spritzed down with disinfectant before it goes back in the case, and there'll be a waiting period before the customer retrieves it. So, yeah, fun times.